constantly say, oh, I can't do that move. I'm not good at that. I can't ever take them down. I can't ever beat them. It means that we're setting ourselves up for that failure. Ask yourself if you really think it's truly impossible or if it's just a challenge. Instead of saying, oh, I can't beat that guy, say, I will beat that guy. I will beat that girl. It may not be today, but I will.
Bang, that's it.
You're the fighter. This is your fight. We trust you.
And all of a sudden, you're going to start going for things in a very different way.
I live my life differently because of Robert.
If for a second they're like, whoa, boom, boom.
On my worst day, I felt like I was the best in the world, and that was Robert Follis.
You got this, Mish.
You see Robert Follis in her corner, who's just one of the unsung heroes of MMA trainers.
Squeeze! Go!
Hey guys, Chael Sonnen here. I've been trained by Robert Follis from day one. I'm proud to say he taught me how to fight.
Robert was always very humble. He never had to be the boss. He was the head coach. He was trying to be the best coach that he could.
You can win this, you're in this. This is exactly what we trained for.
He had this remarkable way of connecting to his fighters.
That's God's gift to you. This is God's gift to you. Use it.
And Robert was one of the few people that could get me focused and could communicate and deal with me.
Nice big deep breaths. Here we go, squirt.
Robert was the guy that helped everybody else. He wasn't the guy that asked for help.
Yes.
I think he put so much of himself into other people, but he was going through his own problems.
He was battling things that I'll never really even be able to understand.
To help people was always his focus. And I also think it was partly his escape. And he didn't let them know what was really going on in the back there. He wore a mask. I have one sister and two brothers. My sister's the oldest. Her name is Sharon. And then there's me. I was born in 1962. Randy was born in 1968, and Robert was born in 1969. You know, the childhood I had was a loving and good environment, but we were raised Jehovah's Witnesses. My father was an elder within the organization, and that was our life. Jehovah's Witnesses started in the late 1800s. They believe ultimately at the time of Armageddon that everybody on the earth that isn't a Jehovah's Witness will be destroyed. You're not supposed to associate with people outside of your religion. You're not supposed to salute the flag. You're not supposed to celebrate holidays, any of these things. We were going door to door regularly. Our family studies were very regular. Kind of whether we believed or didn't believe at this point in time, it was just what we had to do as children of our parents. So even though we were raised in a loving environment, and it really boiled down to a conditional love environment. In 1979, my sister found a person that she liked that was not part of the Jehovah's Witness organization, and that was the point in time when my father met with my sister and said, you have a choice to make. You can either stay with the family and be a Jehovah's Witness, or you can leave tomorrow morning. And she ended up leaving the next morning. When she left, Robert was 11 or 12 at that point in time. I was 18, and I had moved on from the family. And we both were disfellowshipped from Jehovah's Witnesses. They literally removed our pictures off of the walls and erased us. What does that do to the psyche of a young kid? Brother, sisters, did they abandon us? it beat him up his whole life.
I am Matt Thornton. I am the founder and head instructor for Straight Blast Gym, SBG. We have about 70 locations around the world. We started here in Portland, Oregon in 1992.
At that time, Straight Blast Gym, which is like the original, a lot of people know Straight Blast Gym is like Conor McGregor's in Ireland. But Matt Thornton, who was the only black belt in Oregon at the time, he was our coach.
Welcome to continuing Straight Blast Gym video series, Functional JKD. In this tape, number 5, we're going to talk about the ground.
Long before the UFC, I had in my mind people training all the different ranges and fighting until the fight was over and figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And that's what I wanted to do. And I met Chris Howder. And Chris was one of the first American black belts.
Here is my original belt. This has a molecule of sweat from everybody I've ever rolled with. Matt Thornton was way ahead of his time. I'm gonna say we all were at that time. Mixed martial arts was comprised of basically 5 or 6 major combat sports.
Tempo karate against jiu-jitsu.
So the integration hadn't all worked it out yet.
So in 1994, Robert walked in. He was bartending. He'd had a couple issues having to get angry drunks out of the bar, and he wanted to learn how to fight. He had no previous martial arts training. He hadn't wrestled at all, but I could tell very quickly that Robert and I shared the same kind of fascination with functional martial arts.
I can definitely remember the first time Robert and I rolled. His brain was working. He was trying to strategize, and it was done in a very playful way, but a deliberate way.
Good break.
And within a pretty short period of time, within a year or two, he became one of the head instructors for my school.
One of my biggest goals since I started was to beat Matt. I'm always working on that. Yeah. Good luck. Yep. Keep on waiting, buddy, because I'm coming.
I think the number one quality to be a good coach is you have to care about your student, you have to care about your athlete. He always had that. You have to have a certain level of intelligence to be able to problem solve in the moment, be able to realize the strengths and weaknesses of your fighter as well as the other fighter.
And then if you can communicate that, you are a tremendous coach. And Robert had those elements very early on.
What I don't want to do is bring my elbows out wide here. I want to keep in tight, kind of like I have Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. Sometimes it's better to say less and let people make a few mistakes. Work on one thing and kind of get that down. And as you make mistakes, it kind of makes you hungry to learn anyway.
My name is Matt Lindland. I am the founder and the head coach here at Team Quest in Portland, Oregon. We've been doing this since 2000 when I came back from the Olympics.
Matt Lindland is an American wrestling legend. Oh! And now he's trying to get the back, and he has it. Now this is where Lindland likes to be, Jeff, in the Greco style, just like Randy Couture. Randy Couture is an animal.
Randy Couture had a gym just a couple miles from here. And I told him to bring the mats and put them in the back of my car lot. This used to be my mechanic's shop. I had usually a couple cars in here, getting those working and putting them back out on the lot. And then this was our detail shop, where you see this pro shop at now. This is a detail shop. We just kind of walked past here and went through that big red door. This is my iconic door here. Team Quest. This was, you opened this door, you knew you were gonna scrap in here. You gotta be strong enough just to move that thing.
I went over there basically the first day Quest was open, and it was like Randy, Dan Henderson, Chael Sonnen, Nate Corey.
Robert was one of the guys when we started training here while this was still a car line. You know, Randy said, hey, I got this guy that's been training over at this other gym in Straight Blast. And we're like, well, okay, we got a guy here that wants to coach, and we want to train full time.
Sit tall, breathe deep, scoot in.
So Robert did it. And he was basically an overnight success. I remember his first month in the gym, all the classes are ran by Robert.
Once I get here, all I'm gonna do is lock my other hand together and I'm gonna pull that tight to my chest and keep everything inside the V of my arm.
The 6 a.m. class is ran by Robert, but the 8 p.m. class is also ran by Robert.
There we go.
He'd study, and he'd come back with notes, and he would pass that on to the team. It was an absolute crash course.
So as I push in, I really snap down on the head and I kind of hollow myself out to give him a place to go.
Robert will go down the same way as Bruce Lee, where he was an innovator of the sport.
We were wrestlers. We were elite wrestlers, some of the best in the world.
That's more than a point. That's going to be 3 more.
You know, winning world championships, Olympic Games. But we weren't trying to submit guys. We were just trying to score points, put guys on their back. And I think that's really where Robert came in. He was like, you can joint lock him, you can strangle him, you got foot locks. And so our games really evolved from there.
Here's the been in trouble. If Matt can get guard here, if he can get full guard, he taps all over. Unbelievable. He's got it tapped.
My brother, who's a used car salesman, calls me up and he says, dude, I got a job at this car lot, and Matt Lindland and Randy Couture are kicking the shit out of each other in the garage. I was signing up. There was no doubt about it. At that time, my life was a struggle, you know. I was 22 years old, a lot of partying going on, not a lot of thinking about my future. Robert has this ability to recenter you and focus you and help guide you so that you can get all these other things in order.
If you're going to go with strikes, you got to go with Chris Liebman.
Nice big deep breaths. Here we go, squirt.
So that come fight night, you can perform at your ample ability.
I mean, how do you not like Chris Liebman?
And that is such a valuable thing to have from a coach.
Around 2004, Randy was filming The Ultimate Fighter Season 1. And I know some of the other fighters at Quest were starting to kind of go their own separate ways as well. Randy called me up and he was like, hey, I opened a gym called Extreme Couture.
Early on in 2006 when I got here, Extreme had just kind of opened up and started getting going, and Forrest had just won The Ultimate Fighter. Mike Piles over there, you know, Tyson Griffin. They had a great group of young fighters, but I didn't think there were a lot of coaches at the time.
The status of Extreme Couture when I arrived was at a bit of a lower point. Robert Follis was brought down to revive the gym.
Give her a shove and hit. Give her a shove and hit. That's the way to hit on that break.
He knew Misha from the Pacific Northwest already.
Let's go. Finish strong now, Misha.
And Caraway, Brian Caraway.
There it is.
And Kevin Lee.
Fight! Well, there we go. Set him. Little feints in front of him, please.
Follis saw something in him at a very, very young age and was able to convince him to move out to Vegas from Detroit.
Turn him. Push him off. Reset your distance.
He was like the best Nick Saban you're ever going to see. He was able to get people to come in and believe.
But we're not staying in one spot, because staying in one spot just puts us in a box.
Yeah.
We're swinging that box long enough, we're going to hit where we want.
The biggest thing that gravitated me towards Follis and Extreme was the way, like his presence. Like he kind of had a way of like making himself known to you. Kind of stood over, tall, booming, like big voice.
And now 2 hands pull, hips low. No, there's no rhythm, it's just... There isn't.
When I met Robert and I took his first class, I knew like I need to be with him every day. He needs to be my coach.
Joseph lived in Sacramento, California, and I lived in Las Vegas, and it was a very sudden thing because we had our wedding gifts shipped to Sacramento. That's what we were gonna do, and then he was like, no, I think I need to move to Vegas, and he did. We pivoted our plans, and yeah, that's where he started training here full time.
Those continuations is where we're gonna score big now.
Bring some energy to this now.
You can win this, you're in this. This is exactly what we trained for.
He believed in me so much that, like, I believed in myself even that much more.
You have the ability to go all the way on this.
He wasn't just an MMA coach, he was like my life coach at the time. I have a bad habit of talking bad about myself jokingly, like, oh, I'm not an athlete or I'm not strong. And he said, even if you're joking, like eventually like you're gonna start to believe it. So no more talks like that. It's just championship from here on out.
In the early days, and really throughout the relationship, Robert was a happy guy, and he was an intense guy. Robert was very passionate about mixed martial arts, but it actually didn't start by coaching. He had told me that growing up, he wanted to help young men become better men.
Doesn't matter if you lose, doesn't matter if you win. What matters is, did I get better? I may not do as well on some of the early tests, but I'm going to do way better on the later tests. In a line with him?
That's really what made him fall in love with coaching. It was never about fighting. It was about helping people become better versions of themselves.
Stay on your person. If they want to break, don't let them take it. If it ends up out here for a second, I want you back in. I want connection. I want to slip. I want to go. Wrestle, wrestle, wrestle. Hands high, extreme on 3. We go 1, 2, 3, extreme.
So I'd only seen my brother, Randy, one time since 1980. And in 2014, we started emailing and texting, and I was starting to see the picture of who he was and what his life was like. And he had been diagnosed as bipolar, and I could tell that he had some of his own issues and some of his own darkness that he was dealing with.
You know, he would have these text conversations with Randy, and he would mention me, something's off. And over the years, he just saw his brother's health deteriorating. He was getting worse and worse. Like physically and emotionally and mentally, he was spiraling.
And then one day, I got a call from Robert. And he was frantic. And he informed me that Randy had killed himself.
It was heavy. He just couldn't even talk. He was just hysterical. Maybe introduce you to the girl or have her come in and we sat in the office and he just wept, man. It broke his heart.
So after Robert stayed in contact with mom and dad, primarily mom, and asked if we could get together. And they agreed to. Robert was so excited.
It was his goal in life to get his family back together. And in the death of his brother, for a very brief moment, that was Robert's silver lining.
And we went and spent the day with him, and it was a wonderful get-together. My mom sat next to me the whole time, holding my hand, kissing me on the cheek. We talked about a lot of memories, and they weren't Jehovah's Witness related, they were family related of how we were raised. And then when it was time to go, Dad and I were talking, and he said, I don't think we should meet like this again. He went back to, because we weren't active members, we were disfellowshipped. They believed in following the law of their God, and that's the way things were going to be. It was a big turning point for Robert. Robert had one goal, and that was for the family to get back together. It was his dream. It was his everything, and he made that clear to me from the very beginning.
Who's up?
His brother just died, and after Dad did what he did after the reunion, he was completely deflated.
Let's turn this.
There were times when he would come home from what I thought would be work, but he would smell like alcohol.
Now we got it cleared.
You know, a lot of those conversations at that time were starting to get a little bit, you know, darker, more on the side of like, you know, I don't know if I want to continue to live, things like that, but it always seemed like it was more because of the alcohol.
He came across Randy's journal. He wrote, "People always say that suicide is selfish. But what's selfish is everyone else wanting you to remain alive with your pain for them." And the expression that was on Robert's face when he told me, it was, it was like a light bulb had gone off in his head. And that's when I realized he just found his justification. Like, it's just a matter of time before Robert takes his own life.
She is the former Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Champion.
It's my second championship opportunity.
Misha Cupcake Tate.
I'm facing Holly Holm.
Nice head kick there by Holly. Oh, nice combination.
I'm going into the 5th round, and I'm down on the scorecards.
Hey.
It's moments like that that a coach like Robert Follis is more important than ever.
Feint again. When she starts throwing, that's when we're gonna make that level change. I need you to get down to your knees when you do it.
5 minutes remain. 5th and final round.
Let's go, Mish! Now's the time!
His messaging to me was, not only can you do this, you're going to do it.
Oh, nice. Misha caught her with the push kick there.
That's the only opportunity we have to win this fight.
Misha looking to lock it in. Wow! Still has it!
So we've got to go take this one home.
She's got it! She's tapping! She's tapping! It is all over! Misha Tate is the new UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion! My God!
I know that people could see that I worked hard for it, but I knew how hard he worked for it. That was such a big moment for him.
When she won, it revived him. He was alive again. He was excited again. He was ready to go again.
So we'll start off just nice and easy, get a couple easy combos, and then we'll run just...
Hold the glove a little bit. I think I'm not quite.
After Randy died, no matter what, it wore on him. Even if he was at his highest peak, when he wasn't at his highest peak, he dropped back down to that level, and the demons were winning. And they continued to get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Let's get back to those kicks. It's all gonna stay on the ground. But where we're starting from is that position on the
He would
leg.
come in for the practices in the mornings, and then his eyes would be bloodshot, and he'd be tired. Hey, coach, take the day off, man. We'll run it. We'll run practice. We'll take over.
There we go. Look to step around now.
At that time, the Robert Follis that I knew and loved was not the same man. He had morphed into something completely different.
We were leaving for fight week, Las Vegas to Canada, and he was gonna corner Tim Elliott. And I remember he missed the flight.
Get on the plane, no Follis. I get to Canada, it's me and James Krause there. He's like, something is wrong. So from that point, me and James start getting on the horn, calling people in Las Vegas, like, hey, do you know where Robert Follis is?
It was somewhere between 6 and 7 that night that I got a call from his girlfriend, Myra, that she didn't know where he was and that he had disconnected all of his social media.
I remember opening the gun safe, and the first thing I saw was his passport. And so, wherever he went, he wasn't planning on going to see Tim.
Some of his weapons were not there, but Robert had a concealed carry, so it wasn't uncommon for Robert to be carrying a gun. I tried and tried and tried. I sent him emails, love you, we're here for you. Send me a text, just blank so I know that you're out there. And I never got that. I never got that response. I decided on the 15th that I was going to contact the police. And she gave me the number for the coroner's office. I just remember dropping to my knees. It was brutal. It was brutal. It just tore me up.
Las Vegas police are reporting they have found the body of local MMA coach Robert Follis, now confirmed deceased due to a gunshot wound to the head, an apparent suicide.
He had been found about an hour and a half before I got that call. He had gone to one of his favorite hiking spots. I'd been there with him, parked his vehicle out there. He had the door open to where he was sitting looking at the mountains that he loved. When his body was found and the coroner takes him in, Robert didn't have alcohol in his system. He didn't have drugs in his system. He was really ready to do what he was going to do. This was my last picture with Robert. That was December 3rd after the fights out in the parking lot, and he was getting ready to drive back to Vegas. The shirt I'm wearing was my brother Randy's shirt, and I liked wearing that when I was meeting with my brother. It always felt like it kept the three of us together.
I found some things that he had written after his brother Randy died that were very hard to read. He wrote that when he learned of his brother's suicide, that he was jealous because Randy got to it first. After he died, and I felt like I was spiraling. Like, I remember thinking, God, if this is how he felt, I don't know how he lived for so long.
Understanding why he did this is difficult for people. It's difficult for those that were closest to him. And for as much as he
coached, taught, mentored, inspired people. I wished he could have done it for himself at the end, but he wasn't able to.
And I'm mad. I'm fucking pissed off. Selfishly so, because I still want him here. No matter what pain he was living with, I still want him here. As my friend, as someone to tell those stories that we had from 20 years ago. But he's not, and I've lost him, and just like all of us have. But I think he made such an indelible imprint on everyone that he touched. How many people he would consistently call and check up on, try to be there with them, whether it's cornering in the cage or cornering in life.
This is the future.
Trying to be the foundation that they could really call upon. All the while chasing that unconditional love he never felt worthy of.
I was shocked, heartbroken, really devastated to find out that Robert Follis had taken his own life.
I was just like, what the heck? Like, still thinking like, well, there's a mistake because he wouldn't do that, you know?
Somebody in the prime of their life, somebody who set a goal, in this case it was coaching, but he's got world champions. He's got a whole roster in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which was a lifetime goal. And quite frankly, we really didn't do a great job of thanking him. We all appreciated him very much. But we kept it inside. You end up in a situation like this, you have your regrets. My regret is I didn't just tell him.
When somebody close dies, you do blame yourself for a piece of it. I do blame that I could have been more of a support.
All right, guys.
I never saw a dark side in him. Which is really weird because he was everybody's that had any dark thought or side, like he was the one to go to brighten those up.
Okay, doing it very well. Throw more punches.
That's hard to think to get to that point, you know, if like all these people love you and care about you and you affect so many of these lives.
And that saddens me a lot, that he didn't feel like maybe he could open up or reach out in the ways that he needed to.
Happy birthday too!
Happy birthday, Daddy! Aww, you're talking.
I was newly pregnant, and to this day it still breaks my heart that I never got to share with him that I was going to be a mother.
I think that Robert had known for a long time that he had an expiration date that would be sooner than other people would realize. So really, I have a lot of gratitude for good people that were in his life. I really do think we kept him alive for longer than he thought he would be.
I think Robert's legacy is going to be his students and his athletes and all the people's lives that he touched, both from my gym and for all the years after that he connected with and had a positive influence on.
All right, guys, let's line up real quick. He was a positive man, and he wanted to see people become the best versions of themselves in every area of life.
All the way to the wall, keep going, keep fighting the wall, keep fighting the wall, keep fighting to the wall. If it wasn't for Robert, God knows, I don't think I'd be sitting here talking to you. I don't think I'd be talking to anybody right now. Robert ultimately probably saved my life.
He's made me a successful person. He's made me a successful business owner. I have my own MMA gym now, and it is what it is today because of him.
Robert used to always teach me, find a good position and make them pay for it.
This quote that he used to say was, how you do anything is how you do everything. And so when I'm vacuuming the fucking floor and I look up, fuck, I gotta get, it's like, I can't miss the spot. I can't half-ass it because I see Robert up there looking at me.
I live my life differently because of Robert. I'm a different mother, I'm a different human being.
Are you ready to pick the red one?
And I still take the teachings of Robert into fights with me today.
Thank you, baby. Can I have it?
I contribute a lot of my success to Robert Follis. Every victory that I have inside, outside the cage is attributed to him in some way.
He was a mastermind teacher, and he taught me so much.
Short time, 10 seconds.
So when he passed away, I said, we owe it to Robert to keep this standard the way it is.
A little bit, yep.
Raise that standard and make it better and win some fucking world titles. That's how we honor his memory.
UFC Heavyweight Champion of the World.
When I won Coach of the Year, first guy I called, Rick Follis. Not my wife, not my mom, Rick. Because it was like calling Robert.
He made an impact on the sport that not a lot of people make. And that part of that legacy being passed on to people like Eric has allowed them to rise up now and prove their mettle. I don't feel that he ever allowed any of his personal issues to get in the way of training a fighter. To be able to help people, to do things for other people, to help people achieve things that are wonderful in their life. That was always the center thread that was running through everything he was doing. He really had touched these people's lives in a way above and beyond the sport.